Raghav Podar, ladies and gentlemen, is a chairman of Podar Education Group in India, a very, very established education group. Pre-independence, in fact, they started their operations in the year 1927. So they have seen the thick and thick. Our country is got our independence only in 1947. So please understand this, that their body of work has been, in fact, not just about when we became a country which was independent, but before that also they were having their commitment toward education for the Indian audience at large, if I may say. Raghav is obviously leading the group, which is being developed by his forefathers. But having said this, the beauty of knowing Raghav is that he comes with a very, very, if I may say, global experience. Whatever little I've spoken to him, and when I I was trying to put this together for all of us, and for the inaugural bit, I thought he'll be, along with Mrs. Uppal, India's best representation to the world. So welcome, Raghav.
Thank you, Gaurav. Pleasure to be here at the IPN, and lovely to be talking to fellow educators and people who are passionate, especially because it's not pedigree, but passion that is going to drive us forward. Now, the education system of the entire world, the way education is delivered to students, is at the cusp of a dimensional shift. The way curriculum was transacted up until now has been disrupted by the pandemic, and we can ensure it's for the better. With automation, technology, Industrial Revolution 4.0, we don't need our students to be second-class robots, but instead be first-class humans. Now, what are the traits that are inherent to humans which no technology can replace or do a better job of? And what is the role of the educator in such times? Is it just to be of an information delivery process, or a content delivery boy, or a content delivery lady? No, the role of the educator today has moved to that of being a coach, a mentor, and a facilitator of learning. Technology can easily deliver content. We all know that. But it's only a human teacher that can inspire, encourage, and spark that imagination, inquiry, and curiosity in a child. Today's children already have Google at their fingertips. By the time they grow up, they will be auto-prompted with AI and other technologies for the next task that they have to complete. So the idea is technology is going to anyways give you that information. The content delivery is going to be done by technology. The role of the educator is to spark that imagination, inquiry, curiosity in a child's brain. And there is no better time than now in a crisis that forces us to grow and wakes us up from this slumber of rudimentary pedagogy. We can ill afford in other education systems that test students in and prepare students for skills that they won't require in the 21st century lifetimes, like memorization and regurgitation. It's a time of transition where these trends are still forming and evolving. And it is incumbent upon us, especially the education thought leaders, the influencers, who have to shoulder this responsibility to steer this evolution of education in the direction which will truly benefit our 21st century students the most. Our posterity is going to look back at this time as one of those defining moments that comes once in centuries. Lee spoke about, this is not a recess in history. He's right. This is history. We are living through history. As I said, the posterity is going to look back at us as one of those defining moments that comes once in centuries. And either they're going to thank us for the direction in which we took education, or they're going to curse us for not rising up to the occasion when we had the opportunity. While much of this developed world, the progressive world, is galloping ahead with online education and having nuanced debates. And what are these nuanced debates? They are about the quality of the screen time, the quality of the online engagement. How engaged is the child? How can we build the different skills? How can we have the children front and center and not just a teacher giving a monologue or a lecture? While much of the developed world is galloping ahead with these online education, a lot of our debates in certain states especially are about banning online education. And oh my God, so much screen time. And first state that banned it was Karnataka, and they said up till standard 5 ban online education. And what were they going on? The Nimhans report. Now for every one Nimhans report, I will tell you that there are about 25 more scholarly reports. World Bank, UN, WHO, American Pediatrics Association, Australian Pediatrics Association, McKinsey, which speak about the quality of online learning, how to build engagement in students, and how to develop skills in students that otherwise may not have been possible through regular brick and mortar schools. I'm not saying that online learning is a panacea. I'm not saying it's a substitute, but it is definitely there to supplement and to help the brick and mortar traditional schooling, which is what the new normal is going to be. So whether it's a new normal or a new paradigm or whatever the nomenclature you want to use, the idea is that whatever does emerge, it is going to be blended. You have to ensure that we are utilizing this technology well and making sure that the children, the skills and those competencies and the capacity building that the other speakers spoke about needs to be developed, and it can be developed by proficient, efficient teachers. I'll tell you a little bit about the McKinsey report, since it's a very long report, 45 pages or more, and it's cumbersome to read. It's a lot of technical stuff. So just to summarize it quickly, the McKinsey report has quantified the learning loss of children who are in traditional schools as compared to online learning. And in online learning, they've kept high quality online learning, average quality, poor quality, and zero online learning. Between traditional learning and high quality online learning, the learning loss is 0 to 1 month through online, only 0 to 1 month. From average quality online learning, that goes to 4 to 6 months. So traditional versus average is 4 to 6 months. If you go to low quality online learning, that's 10 to 12 months of learning loss. And if you have zero online learning, that is up to 14 months of learning loss for a child as compared to traditional schooling. That is the level of discussion and nuance of discussion that goes on. And yet here we are in some states banning online education. It's the most absurd, and it's a disservice to the children. You cannot do that. Even the Karnataka Chief Justice has recently said that why ban it? If parents don't want to have it, they're free not to attend, but how can you ban a fundamental right of education? And he's questioned the government's order that he says, do you really believe that children not watching online classes are not sitting on devices watching cartoons and playing video games? I mean, what are you talking about? So if you're saying that there's too much screen time or a child is addicted to something, he's not addicted to the device. He's addicted to the content on the device, what he's watching. So whether it's his favorite cartoon or the video game, PUBG or whatever it is, that is what he's addicted to. And yet you are not banning any of that. What you're banning is online education, the thing that's actually beneficial. If the child is, say, addicted to watching Discovery Channel or science or maths, or he wants to learn more about the pandemic, that's great. Let him do that. More power to that child. My nephew, he's about 12 years old. When he was 9.5, he wrote a book because he's addicted to reading. He loves reading literature and all the different things. And he has a Kindle. He reads on a Kindle. Now one can say, oh, but reading on a Kindle will be reading on a device. You should take that Kindle away from him. Why? The question is, what is he addicted to? He's addicted to bettering himself, to a better version of himself. So if you think that it's cartoons that are the problem, or the video games that are a problem, that are violent in nature or whatever, ban those. Why are you banning online education? What sense does that make? Or there's a learning app, which is now a multi-billion-dollar company, and that is flourishing. You keep hearing reports about how they're flourishing, and we then talk about online education. What is that? I mean, let's not be hypocritical here. Let's call a spade, and definitely if, like the minister said, that it increases the inequality between those who have devices and those who don't have devices. And that's right. And we must address and resolve that. Those who don't have devices are not able to receive the kind of learning. But then if you're saying that there is inequality increasing, why is it increasing? Because there is a benefit to online learning. If there's no benefit, then anyways the inequality is not going to increase. But the fact that the inequality is increasing is because of the quality of the online lesson. So why ban it? Are you trying to tell me that there should be crab mentality, that if I can't succeed, you should also not get to succeed? So the 80% who have access to devices should not get to have access to that because 20% of them can't access it. Let's focus our areas, our mind space on things that matter and how we can benefit children into becoming the best versions of themselves, rather than things that are done for a lot of wrong reasons with vested interests, or we know there's some association and tiny groups of parents who might be pushing at this agenda and lobbying for it. We understand what's going on, why it's going on, but please let's not ruin the life of a child by doing these silly things. And allow children to be children. Let them be the best version of themselves. They are going to be resilient. They are going to build these skills, but we have to be the sail, the wind beneath their wings.
Okay. So very, very passionate Raghav in action. So having said this, I will actually ask a question to the entire forum before I come to all three of you. Any other country in the world which has banned online education? Anyone? I don't think so. Anyone would like to have a show of hand and say possibly from Nigeria or saying Ghana? I don't think so, right? So I think that's in itself is an answer to what Raghav is saying.
I would like to ask a question about the screen time. What is the apt screen time for the, let us say, age group that is below 6 years, then 6 to 10 years, and then 10 to 17, 18 years? Because a lot of work has been done by all the schools. So there's still a debate about what is the apt screen time.
Dr. Jyoti Gupta, I think if I can gather your voice, this is Dr. Jyoti Gupta, I believe, right?
Yes.
Welcome. Okay, Raghav, you trying to answer that? Yeah. Tahir will come to you.
Yeah. I think the debate needs to shift from being the quantity of screen time to the quality of screen time. So while this debate has been going on since years across the world, it has progressed now to the quality of screen time. Even the NIMHANS report, by the way, which the Karnataka government has used as a base, has also said that up to 1 hour screen time is okay for children up to the age of 10. Instead of focusing too much about the amount of screen time, let's focus on the quality of it, on the nuance of how the teacher is delivering her lesson, on the engagement of the child, on the fact that are there breaks in between. And people think screen time is you have to sit in attention and just keep looking at the screen. To the educators here, children learn best on their feet and not on their seats. So if you believe that the child should only sit in attention and only listen to the lecture of the teacher, you're doing it wrong. If that's the online classes that's happening or the screen time that's happening, that is what's wrong. The child needs to move around, child needs to get 15-20 minutes. I'll tell you a little quick example. There was a professor called Dr. Chuck Hillman at the University of Illinois. And this is way before COVID. I'm talking about 7-8 years back. He did this study where he took a class of students in his school and divided them into two halves, say A and B. And group A continued sitting on their seats for the full duration of the period and for the duration of the day till the recess came. And he took group B and took those children out into the field, made them do a 20-minute brisk walk, came back, did scans on their brains, MRI scans, and then studied what their different parts of the brain were active or not. The group A students had only a little bit of greens and yellows and on a blue brain on the scan, whereas the group B, who had just had a 20-minute brisk walk, had reds, yellows, greens, blues, which shows massive amount of activity in the child's brain. So if India is a very academically rigorous country, a lot of Asian countries are, if we care so much about academics, let us ensure that we are making our brain ready. The last thing we do before we sleep is so engrossed in making sure we recharge our phone's batteries. What about recharging our brain's batteries, our children's brain batteries? So if the debate about screen time is only going to be restricted to 46 minutes or 1 hour 20 minutes or 3 periods and 4 periods, don't focus on that. Focus on how you are delivering the lesson. Is there actual enough time of the child on their feet? Is there enough time of the child to breathe well, meditation, yoga, do all those things and get the children front and center. The best teacher is one who can step back and let learning take place by itself. Heuristic learning it's called. Self-directed, self-owned, self-led learning. That is what we have to develop in our students rather than focus, this debate about what is the right number of hours or minutes of screen time needs to be thrown out of the window and replaced with the quality of screen time, which is what the debate is happening in many of the other countries, or even in the McKinsey report that I spoke about.
Gaurav, could I just add
Sure.
Raghav has said? Couldn't agree more with him, because all of us have been teachers, and I remember some of my best lessons were taught under a tree without even a gizmo in my hand, without a Padlet, without a video. And those are the most remembered lessons. But just kind of building on to what Jyoti has said, the debate is not about numbers. It's not about numbers. You have to, and that's why, this think Maslow before Bloom, think growth mindset, it's all jargonistic. Use common sense. That is should be your biggest yardstick, right? And I mean, when we come to it, all our schools which have access to technology, children are on screens anyway. They are looking at a smart board, they're looking at a one-on-one iPad, they're looking at a Chromebook, they're looking at a laptop. So it is, what are you doing with that screen time? Yes, monitor what your children are doing on Facebook, parents, monitor that. Why is a 11-year-old on Instagram? Look at that. And in that, you have to role model it. How many adults can live, like Raghav just said, how many of us can live without our phones? We will charge our phone battery. But so therefore, the debate in my head is not about numbers. It's about quality. It's about using common sense. And it's about doing what is best for children. See, whether they are in a classroom or at home, what has shifted is the onus of responsibility. If you're a class teacher, do you stand in front of a class in today's world and lecture for 40 minutes? You don't. Don't you walk around the class? Don't you check each child is doing okay? There are some who just need to jump up and down for 2 days and then settle down. They just want to jump up in class for 2 minutes and then calm down. So that hasn't changed. That philosophy of teaching a child and not a subject hasn't changed and shouldn't change. You're teaching children, not subjects. So that question of time will depend. There are some things that will be best delivered with a 30-minute online lecture, with a video that's absolutely powerful. And there are some things that will best be taught sitting around a table and having a discussion. So there is no, you really have to use your own philosophy as a teacher and as an educator. And please don't get into a numbers game. Don't. It's irrelevant.
And I want to quickly add one more quick point out there, adding to what Vanita said, that talking about the common sense, to those teachers or students who feel that, oh my God, this is so long, you see a well-delivered, engaged lesson being delivered by a teacher, even if it's for an hour, for example, it will flow like it's 5 minutes. You won't even realize it's over. You'll want more. But a teacher who is not able to deliver a lesson effectively and keep her students engaged, 5 minutes will feel like 1 hour. So if you're, as a principal or a school leader, trying to measure what quality engagement am I having, the best thing is if you're maintaining your attendance from the morning to the afternoon or daily, is your attendance going up or is it going down? And if it's going down, the reason is your teacher of that class is not engaging enough. It's not because of internet, it's not because of device and all. Those are usually excuses. Generally, you see the teachers who have very good engagement, the number of students attending their classes, attendance is going from 70 to 80 to 90 to 95 to 98%. So the debate about device not being there is sort of being pushed away for those teachers who are engaging. But for those teachers who are not engaging, suddenly the question of, ma'am, I don't have a device, my father's too busy with the device, he can't give it to me, all those kind of things start popping up.
Lee.
Yes.
Lee.
Yeah, so I would agree with what the other two panelists said. I think the other component to this is we have to not only teach the content, but we also have to teach the way to observe and accept the content. What was surprising to us was when we started posting the online videos and the online lessons was that the parents didn't know how to manage it. So we as educators have to become more proactive with parents and say, you can stop the video. You can replay it. It's yours. You know, this has been delivered to you. You can control how much time is involved. And like Ms. Upal was saying, the time in front of the screen, and both panelists, it's not about the time. It's about the way they use it. Kids use YouTube every day, all the time. And they know how to stop and return and loop things. So we have to also, we're not just teaching the students anymore, we're teaching the parents as well. This is how you manage the content. You know, we're giving it to you, it's boxed up, here you go, have it. Now, your child is 5 years old. There's no reason to play a 10-minute video to a 5-year-old. They're not gonna sit for it, you know? But if you can give it to them in bits and in pieces, chunk it just like a teacher would. Because a teacher, as was said earlier, observes the child's learning ability. And when that child starts to wander off, then you're like, okay, let's come back, let's do this. we have to teach parents the same thing. And if this is our new reality, if we have to stay in this kind of quarantine, distant learning method for a while, then we need to help the parents make it accessible for their kids. You can't just sit them down in front of the screen and play and, okay, now learn. It just doesn't work that way.
And if I could just add one last bit, I think let's not forget student agency here. You know, it's not just us doing it to them. They're not the passive recipients of our decisions. It is absolutely imperative to engage with students, give them voice, give them choice, give them agency, because they know how they learn best. So create those conditions in which they get deep learning experiences which are relevant to them. And they will know, and you know, they will never disappoint you.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Irfan Nilai from BLS International School, Hathras. I'm a HOD Department of English. And I thank Gaurava for inviting me here today. My question simply points towards the plight of the EWS students, the economically weaker sections of the society. Right? We have been talking about, I have been attending debates, I have been hosting, webinars myself. But somehow, we have been ignoring the economically weaker sections. In most of the developing nations, we have these quotas so that the lower strata can be absorbed in mainstream education. But what I feel when I'm teaching in the class physically, I teach just by looking at the students. I can see what they can fathom and what they cannot, and I can teach them. But most of them, this lower strata, they don't have these high-end phones, right? And this unprecedented juggernaut, this pandemic, it has created such a void that right now they cannot afford to buy a new phone. So their children are getting suffered. So do we have anything in mind to tackle this problem?
If I may come in here, I think the need, you're absolutely right, because this is the most painful fault line that's become so visible, that digital divide, the inequity of access. There are no quick solutions, clearly. There aren't any, nobody's going to fix it tomorrow morning. But I think in the long term, what is needed is institutional reform that focuses on private-public partnerships. Because I think there are people out there, there are schools, institutions out there, which are willing to partner with, institutions which are not as well resourced as they are. But I think that usually happens in an ad hoc, inconsistent manner. One of the remedies, I think, would be to maybe come up with a framework that talks about, that institutionalizes a partnership between the private domain and the public domain. Because even within the private domain, as you pointed out, there are disparities, there are distinctions, right? And there is a resource crunch, there is an allocation of resource. It's not going to go away in a day. And when we talk about technology, we also have to think of using any kind of technology, not the most high-end phone, right? Like we differentiate in our assessment tasks and in how we set work, we also have to find different adaptive pedagogies. I know a school in Raipur which did not have any access to technology, and they went into lockdown. And the leader, somebody like yourself who wanted students to continue learning, he started printing worksheets and putting them on the village chopal and said, okay, you don't have a phone at home, you don't have a video, you go once a day to pick up whatever, well, see that and copy it and come back. So, I'm just giving an example. So a private-public partnership is definitely a way forward, I think. It's not going to get resolved overnight. It's not going to get resolved overnight, unfortunately.
No, I agree with what Vanita has said. And it's not only India, it's all over the world. It's the marginalized sections, the EWS equivalents of all over the world that are facing this issue. What I would give credit to the government for is that they have had TV and radio through which they are delivering lessons. One can definitely debate on the quality of that. Just one lecture you're watching on TV or listening to on radio, it may not be as effective, but they are taking steps. The government has taken good cavalier steps to have this on TV and radio.
You were saying something?
Yeah, this question has been a question since education started. There have always been inequalities in delivery. But when historically schools started, only certain schools had books. Then books became the new norm. Now we're looking at a new educational focus, and devices may become the new book. A lot of books, our school, for instance, is already supplying kids with devices. So this is going to be, when you pay your fee, you become, you become able to learn in that school. This is, we have to stop applying old rules to this new game and start making this new game permanent, and we're always going to have these ideas or these arguments about what about the schools that don't have the same, access. Well, we've been working on that, and now we just have to change what it is we're giving them access to. We forget the old paradigm, you guys. We're moving into something completely new now.
Sunanda Grover, your question.
Yes, thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you. Most
So my
welcome.
questions by appreciating efforts of all IPN leaders and all the panelists, and seriously appreciating all the members who are attending. Very simple question to take attention of all of you. As in school, a child used to see the management sometimes, principals many a times on different occasions like school functions, a principal taking rounds. The child used to see the management and principals. Now, as of now, because of all these virtual meetings, a child is seeing a teacher, a great representative of the school. So I would like to ask you a very simple thing. A teacher who has been trained during her B.Ed, M.Ed or Ph.D., that ways are actually taken a step back. She is expected a lot, very rightly said by Raghav ji, that she needs to have engaging lessons. Her quality of delivering lessons matters a lot. Upalji said she needs to actually indirectly take care of well-being of the children. Very rightly said by most of you, a lot has to be done with the children for screen time and number of things. I would like to ask very specific question from all the panelists, anyone can take it. Apart from the teacher's screen time, apart from training the teachers through different platforms, apart from expectations of a teacher, apart from any tensions or any pointers related to her salary or whatever, what all constant efforts are being made by the school so the teacher who's representing the school on screen to be happy all the time so that she can convey happiness. Any counseling, apart from few days sessions, please, constant efforts I would like to know. And that is why I must share with Gaurav, I want to start with happiness training sessions with the teachers from coming Tuesday. So please, I want from the panelists this. Thank you.
So if I may go first. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So you've hit the nail on the head. And I said that at the start, that if you don't invest in the well-being of your teachers, you're doing so at your own peril, because they are your front line. They are the ones who are keeping this mechanism going. So one of the constant efforts, so say for example, and you're right, you can't do this suddenly as a stopgap. Okay, I need to look after my teachers. It has to be part of the school culture, the culture of being valued. So say for example, at a school like us, we do yoga sessions for teachers, but swimming, whatever they want to do. So there is that bit that's happening. One of the things when the pandemic started, one of the things we've been constantly doing as a senior leadership team is reaching out to every member of staff on a regular basis. So we have about 280 people on our rolls. So I began that as the director, spoke to every teacher, every member, just to see how are you doing? Is there anything we can do for you? My principals followed that up with every member. So in over 3 months, they've had 3 members of the senior leadership team. In fact, even some governors joined that, asking them, are you all right? Many of them have children who are stuck overseas, family members who are sick. And what came through that was a sense that you are looking after our children. We are here looking after you. Because remember, in India, a lot of the teaching workforce is female. So when they went into online, they didn't have any maids coming in. They were looking after the children. They were cooking, looking after ailing parents. Everything was shambolic for them. So we have stood by our teachers, looked after them. And, the question of money, increment, salary, yes, it's not a measure of how much you value them, but it's an important one. So put your money where your mouth is, okay? Be authentic, be credible, and be there for them. So whether it is a constant happiness program, a well-being program that we've initiated, or physical well-being opportunities, setting up counselors, external counselors for them to access, if somebody is sick, looking after them, these are all mechanisms, but they have to be authentic. This is not a dramatic event that will suddenly convince you that, yeah, my school cares. There has to be that culture of caring.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I want to add on to that. We can definitely have these systematic plans of the counseling and external counseling and all of that's there. But it has to come from within, from the heads, and when I mean heads, I'm not even talking about the principal. I'm saying like from me, at the management level. I'll give you a small example. I don't want to repeat all the things that Vanita has already said because we're doing most of the same things. I also spoke to teachers, spoke to parents who are having trouble, and just a Podar Cares call. Hi, I'm Raghav speaking. I'm the chairman of the Podar group. Just wanted to see check in on you and how are things going with you? What can we do differently? And just keep knowing that we care for you. There was a child, I think in the 7th standard or 9th standard, and you spoke about teachers and teachers' well-being. Yes, absolutely. But also our children. So there was a virtual assembly. You also mentioned that the child sometimes gets to see the management, often gets to see the principal, always gets to see the class teacher, but in the virtual time may not get to see the management or principal as much. And I would say that's not the case for us. I have been attending online classes for my children every day. So whether it's every day at a different school, but from morning till the 3 hours, 4 hours that online classes are on, I am personally attending each class for about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and just going and speaking to them and chatting with them. The other day, I was saying we had a child in Baroda, in one of my schools in Baroda, and in the virtual assembly, they were singing happy birthday to her. So I decided that I'm going to go to my piano, and I played happy birthday and sang for her and played for her. Now, the difference it makes in the life of a child who's just turned 14, she's like, sir, it's made my day, and I don't know what more to say. I'm just speechless. Now, those are things that if you care about your children, if you care about your teaching fraternity, and you really think of them as your family, those things come naturally. It's not like it's something that you have to do because it's something that's correct to do. Do what makes you feel right. If you do it right, what you care about, automatically you will infect that passion and care to your child, to your teacher, to your community, rather than an advice that anyone else might give you.